earlier this year, Google used its market position to threaten the Federalist, which is a conservative website, and demanded that it remove its comment section, that it take it down or it wouldn't be able to use Google Ads. If Google isn't dominant, why does it have the power to demand of a media publisher it disagrees with that it take down the comment site, and why does it expect immediate obedience?
So we have an ads product, and that ads product has many policies that determine what we can show ad inventory against. I think that if you're someone who makes child clothes and want to sell child clothes using our advertising system, you do not want your children's clothes to appear next to harmful or offensive information. In the Federalist case, their comment section had racist commentary in it, and that violated our ads policies, and so we couldn't show ads next to that content. And those policies are clear, they're published, they're understandable.
So how many other media outlets do you demand they pull down their comments pages?
Any media outlet that contained offensive information like the racist information that was in the Federalist, we would not show ads against. We're not asking them to pull it down. Let's be
so Google owns YouTube, which is a dominant media viewing platform. YouTube allows comments. There are racist and offensive comments on YouTube comments. I'm assuming that Google does not demonetize its wholly owned subsidiary YouTube. Is that right?
So we give three choices to publishers, and I will answer your question. We give three choices to publishers. One is they don't have a comment section. Secondly, they put their comment section behind another click. And by the way, a lot of large news publishers do this, like the New York Times, where to get to the comment section, you click once, it takes you to a separate web page, and there are no ads showing on that web page. The publisher is free to operate. The comments appear on a separate page. Or third, they can choose to moderate their comments page. This is what YouTube does. YouTube heavily moderates its comments page. We removed almost 700 million YouTube comments in 1 quarter. We remove most comments at the 99% mark before people even see them or as soon as they appear. So we take efforts to moderate, and that's why ads can show next to that.
So in the past 2 years, how many websites, how many media outlets has Google used its market position and market power on ads to force them to take down or change their comment page? How frequently has what happened to the Federalist happened to others?
I would have to get back to you, Senator, with that answer, and I'm happy to get back to you with that answer. I would point out, though, that we do receive complaints on either side of the aisle on this issue. We've pulled down videos on The Daily Show, on Last Week Tonight, and Democracy Now!, and have received complaints from those sites. So we operate a wide platform. That wide platform has more views that have probably ever been expressed in human history in one platform. And we get complaints from both sides when we use our policies, again, clearly stated policies, to pull down content.
So, Mr. Harrison, I'm going to follow up with you in writing and ask you for that information, and you just represented to this committee that Google will provide that information. I've asked you for that information before, and Google has stonewalled and refused to give an answer. So I'm hopeful that your testimony here will be followed up on by some modicum of transparency.
Many of my colleagues are concerned about anti-conservative bias at Google and on some other online platforms. Earlier this year, I expressed grave concern and had grave concern upon learning that Google reportedly had banned the conservative website, The Federalist, from monetizing its content through Google Ads. I want to be clear here that a private company engaging in censorship on its own platform is not a violation of antitrust laws. Nevertheless, as I pointed out in my letter to your company on this subject, isn't this behavior evidence of market power? In other words, why would any company want to treat its customers that way, unless it was confident that its customers had no viable alternative? Can you help me understand that?
Thank you, Senator. Just a couple quick points. One, the Federalist, and there were some comments made in your opening statement and in Senator Klobuchar's opening statement about there being a lack of choice. Publishers like the Federalist have many choices on how they can monetize their content. The Federalist actually uses 30 different tools, publisher-side tools, to help it monetize its content, and so it has many choices if it's unhappy with how we're providing our services. In the example that you're talking about, we have to have clear policies about how we show our advertisements, and most advertisers do not want their content to show up, or their advertisements to show up next to harmful content. In the case of the Federalist had comment boards that had commentary in it, some of which our systems made clear was racist commentary. And we've been clear in our policies that our ads can't show up next to that kind of commentary.
You're not suggesting that the Federalist and its management are racist?
No, not at all. I'm saying that...
You're talking solely about the commentary, about their obligation that you'd like to see them have to moderate the commentary on their site. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
This is what I find ironic. I mean, ironic, some would say maybe hypocritical. Google justifies deplatforming a website from its ad platform, here, the Federalist, because of content not by the site itself, that the site itself has produced, but because of content on the site's comments section. Well, Google insists that the protections it receives under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act are essential to shield it from liability from its own users' content. Now, how is that not a double standard? And again, isn't the fact that Google feels bold enough to act this way evidence that it perhaps doesn't feel competition, doesn't feel threatened even potentially by any competition?
Senator, first of all, no, there is no allegation that the Federalist is racist. I think that any large platform has comment sections, and those comment sections can contain bad comments. Those are comments that users have uploaded to the system. Publishers use between 4 and 7 different publisher tools to sell their advertising. The Federalist, I believe, uses almost 30 different tools to sell its advertising. And so it has many choices.
I'm glad to know that. I'm glad to know that. But you don't dispute that you are a significant part of this. And I still, unless I'm misunderstanding you, I still don't think you've answered my question. Isn't there a double standard? Like, what? Help me understand why Google should be entitled to that sort of deference, but you're not willing to give that sort of deference to someone else, to another firm that you have just acknowledged isn't racist, doesn't sponsor those sorts of things, but people sometimes comment on those sites, I don't know, perhaps to get them excluded from Google's platform. Is that possible?
Mr. Harrison, thanks for being here. Can we just go back to the Federalist for a moment, please, just to clarify something that you said to Senator Lee. So do I understand it now that you have a content moderation requirement in order to access Google's ad platforms? Is that right? Is that your testimony?
No.
Because the Federalist they didn't moderate their content section, and what you're saying is you require them now to engage in moderation in order to have access to your platforms. Is that right?
No, our ads policy is that our ads will not show up against harmful, offensive content. That's the requirement. If they want to show our ads next to their content, then that content can't be harmful or offensive.
So in other words, they have to moderate it, right? I mean, because what they didn't moderate their content at all. I mean, this isn't even their content; it's third-party content, and they just didn't moderate it at all. Which, under the terms of Section 230, they are perfectly entitled to do. But you're saying now that in order to have access to your arguably monopoly ad platform, they have to engage in content moderation, and they have to do it apparently according to your standards. Is that accurate? Will you tell us what the standards are that the Federalist and other sites have to meet, the content moderation standards?
Yeah, so apologies if I wasn't clear earlier, but they had 3 choices. They could choose not to show ads, they could choose to moderate, or they could choose to put their commentary behind a wall and not show advertisements against that. So no, we weren't requiring them to moderate. We gave them options on how to change in order to allow our ads to show up next to their content.
Okay, so basically their choices were modify their site according to your standards in one of 2 ways. Either modify their site to hide a comment section which they did not moderate. It's not their content, it's third-party content. They didn't moderate it, but they either had to hide that section, put it behind a wall, you just said, or they have to engage in content moderation according to your standards. I think your testimony was a moment ago you were willing to help them do that. You're willing to help them engage in this content moderation. Is that right?
Senator, the comments here that we're talking about were highly racist comments. I think anyone's...
But they weren't the Federalist comments, right? I'm just trying to get at what it is you are requiring sites, especially small sites like the Federalist, compared to your massive sites like YouTube. What do they have to do to access your ad platform? And what I think you said, which I think is news, is that they have to engage in content moderation, and they have to do it according to standards that you have, although I don't think any of us know what they are. I think it would be useful if everybody knew what those standards are, and so I wonder if you'll commit to me today and this committee that you'll publish those content moderation standards that you expect sites to meet if they're going to access your ad platforms. Will you do that?
Senator, again, I'm happy to share our ads policies with you that make it clear that we will not show ads next to offensive, misleading, disturbing content. Those policies are published and clear, and websites can, I think they're already online, but I'm very, very happy to share them with your office. Again, we did not require the Federalist to adopt content moderation. We gave them options on how to make sure that our ads could show up next to their content that didn't violate our policies, that wasn't offensive.
Yeah, it's an as Senator Lee pointed out, it's extraordinary market power that would enable you to do something like this, to basically call the tune for a small independent publisher's construction of their site, to design moderation policies for third-party content that they don't monitor or use, and yet you are able to do this.